My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. UFC Vegas 46 is coming apart at the seams. We've got a bunch of canceled fights, a couple last-minute replacements. We started with like 14 fights 2 weeks ago, and we're down to 10 fights. Two of them have last-minute replacements, and one of them is Brian Kelleher versus Kevin Croom. I'm going to break down the fight. I'll give you my fantasy plays and betting advice. Brian Kelleher, 23-12 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, alternating wins and losses. Kevin Croom, short notice replacement, 21-13 overall, 3-1-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off of that loss to Bruce Leroy at 145 pounds. Brian Kelleher was originally supposed to be fighting a well-rounded prospect with only a few fights at 135 pounds. He's now fighting another veteran. I mean, they have very similar amount of fights at 145 pounds. Couple changes here for Brian Kelleher. And Brian Kelleher, I mentioned he has a ton of experience, and he's a great measuring stick for prospects like he was originally supposed to fight, but he is no longer fighting a prospect. And this is an interesting matchup here. He's incredibly well-rounded. He has nice, clean boxing. He's got decent power. He's got very good grappling, and he sets a nice pace. He's really fun to watch, and he's always looking for a finish in his fights. This is now, he was supposed to be at 135 pounds for 2 fights in a row. He's now back up at 145 on short notice. And at 145 pounds previously, he had a little bit, that's where he was alternating wins and losses, had a little trouble bullying people and forcing his will on them, which is what he likes to do, and that's how he fights. At 135 pounds, he could be the bully. He could do that. So this is back up at 145. Yes, it's short notice, and that's why. But Kevin Croom is not a small person, and Brian Kelleher, he's well-rounded, he's got good striking, he's got good grappling, but he uses his physicality to execute all of those takedowns and to push forward and to keep that pace. Will he be able to do that against the bigger Kevin Croom? Kevin Croom is a well-rounded guy. He's got sneaky submissions and unorthodox striking. He has been training with James Krause for a few camps now, and that should help clean up his striking, get it under control. And if you watch Kevin's last fight against Alex Caceres, he was losing the striking exchanges, and then he went to grapple, but he has an absolutely miserable takedown offense. He's got some solid entries. He can't really finish that well. He doesn't change directions when he hits the legs, and he wasn't able to make anything happen in that fight. And a last-minute opponent change is always tricky. It's easy to say that Croom is taking this on short notice and highlight all the concerns. Is he in shape? Is he not in shape? Has he been training? What has he been doing? But people forget it's also a brand new opponent for Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher was training for somebody entirely different, prepared for somebody at a different weight class. And now here he is facing a bigger opponent who has a ton of veteran experience just like himself and is also pretty well-rounded. It's a very different look for Brian Kelleher, and that poses its own concerns and issues for somebody like Brian Kelleher. Now, with that being said, I don't think this is a drastically different opponent. Yes, Croom has far more experience than Kelleher's previous opponent, Said Yakab, but similar fighting styles. Both well-rounded guys. I think Said Yakab has better striking, maybe better grappling offense, where Kevin Croom definitely has more experience and has, a little scrappiness in him and a little more dangerous on the ground. But I think Brian will still get the win. I think he'll be able to exploit the last minute step up from Kevin Croom. I think Brian, although is moving up in weight class, will be able to set sort of a relentless pace, get Kevin Croom to slow down, probably find him a little flat-footed and execute from there. He may not be able to bully Croom, but I don't know if that's that big of a deal in this fight because, again, while Kevin Croom is an incredible gamer, he's not necessarily going to be in shape. And let's look at these stats here. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Strikes landed per minute, 3.63 to 1.35. Striking accuracy, 40%, 36. That's about even. Strikes absorbed. Brian Kelleher does get hit quite a bit, and that's because he'll get in your face and he'll stay in that firefight. But The striking defense is actually a little better for Kelleher, but the grappling stats to me are the ones that actually matter here, because I do think Brian Kelleher is going to look to get this to the ground. And grappling is exhausting. So if Brian Kelleher grapples with Kevin Croom, he will exhaust him and exploit any, non-training camp concerns there. He averages a little more than 1 takedown per fight, but his takedown accuracy is not great, but it is fantastic compared to Kevin Croom's very low 6%. And his takedown defense is at 60%. So I do expect Brian Kelleher to get in Kevin Croom's face, stay in his face with the striking, and then look to grapple, exhaust him, and exploit him from there. Kevin Croom is game, is always game. He doesn't necessarily have top-tier skills, but he has top-tier mentality. He doesn't quit in his fights, and he's incredibly tough. If we look at DraftKings, this is one of those amazing anomalies. So Brian Kelleher was an underdog in the original matchup, so he was priced at $7,500. DraftKings does not change fighter value regardless of their next opponent. So Brian Kelleher is now a 3-1 favorite, and he is still priced as an underdog in DraftKings. So I think there's incredible value on Brian Kelleher in DraftKings. And if you think Kevin Croom is live, well, listen, $6,700 is also an amazing price point. I'm not going to do that, but I do have Brian Kelleher in my lineup. $7,500 is great. We don't have monkey knife fight lines yet. I don't know what it'll be set at, but I do expect this fight to go 3 full rounds. And I think Brian Kelleher wins a decision. I'm not going to bet the money line on him, but I may grab a, Brian Kelleher wins by decision bet, or Kevin Croom is game, and he will have energy in that first round, and he will be big in that first round. Kevin Croom plus 3.5 bet might be a solid bet. And what that is you're buying one single round on the judge's scorecard. So all you need Kevin to do is win 1 round on his own, which could be the first. Then you bought a second round, and he now wins a decision as far as the bet is concerned, 2-1. So he's a plus 245 underdog. You'll probably get plus 150 on that bet. But again, all I need him to do is win a single round. Once that prop drops, I'm probably going to hit that. I do like that quite a bit. I think Kevin can win the first round, and then Brian will take over from there. Interesting matchup. Kevin Croom is probably the more live of the 2 last-minute replacements. And if you want $50 free and you want to explore that plus 3.5 bet, go to wewantpicks.com/bets, sign up, make a deposit, let me know, and I will send you $50. We have 5 different betting partners. The one that does the plus 3.5 bets is Bet Online. We'll see you guys on Saturday for our pre-fight breakdown.